And then we have mercury. We go to a lot of extents to make sure we don't have mercury in our food today, but it used to be used in medicine. We know today now, it could kill somebody, but they used to actually use it in medicine, but they've changed their mind on that, so their interpretation again was gravely wrong. And then the whole idea of junk DNA. When scientists were first looking at DNA, it seemed like only 2% of the DNA did anything, coded to make proteins that carry out certain functions in our body. 98% seemed like it wasn't doing anything. So they claimed it was junk, leftover vestiges of evolutionary history. Obviously, we're not designed by God. He wouldn't design you so that 98% of your DNA didn't do anything. Well, they've studied it further. Now they know the 98% they were calling junk is more complex than the 2%. It's instructions telling the 2% what to do. That could cause one evolutionist to say this: the failure to recognize the implications of the non-coding DNA, that was a portion they were calling junk, that will go down as the biggest mistake in the history of molecular biology. Big mistake, all based on assuming that evolution was true.
And it seems like through every one of these examples, really, the hubris of men, just because we don't know something, right? We don't know what this DNA is. It doesn't do what these ones do over here. Therefore, it must be junk. It must have no use. Sort of as soon as you sort of rule out the one thing you do know, then we think we know everything, with the washing of the hands or with the mercury. And I mean, in man's pride, people are dying when man doesn't humble himself before his creation, before his creator, and say, okay, I don't know what this is, but God made it. It must have a purpose. Right. I ought to be humble and not completely reject, any possibility of knowing anything. Do you see something similar? And I remember, and maybe this is totally unrelated, and you could just say, Ray, you're crazy, but like when my parents were little, they would go and get their tonsils taken out. Like everybody would get because they didn't know that the tonsils did anything. They get sore, they get swollen. When you get a sore throat, better to take them out. Would that be something like that?
Yeah, very similar to that. And then the appendix, yank the appendix out, it's not doing anything. It's a leftover organ from earlier stages of evolution. Well, now we know the appendix is part of the immune system. You want to keep it as long as you can. If it goes bad, you might need to remove it, but that doesn't mean it wasn't doing anything. Just like you can get rid of your arms and still function, that doesn't mean they don't have a purpose. And so same thing, removing tonsils, removing the appendices. Doctors are very hesitant to do that unless it really goes bad, then you might need to get rid of that. So in reality, it's the myth of settled science. Science is never really settled. There's a lot of room for debate and discussion, and it's really all about interpretation. And if you have a different starting point, like an evolutionary starting point, it often leads to wrong conclusions.